Hello everyone. Today I am making this video just to show off my Game Boy Advance collection. Now, the Game Boy Advance, I might be dating myself a little bit here, but the Game Boy Advance SP was the first pretty much video game system that I owned personally, meaning that I didn't share it with siblings or anything. So I actually, my first console was the NES. And then that's all my family owned up until about, I want to say, the 6th generation of consoles, and then I got a GameCube. I'll tell that story in my GameCube video, but before that, I got a Game Boy Advance SP. And I have a long history with the Game Boy Advance SP, so of course I've been collecting a lot for it because it's a system that I have a lot of fond memories with. So I'm just going to take you through my collection and show you what I got. Last video I mentioned that I dump all of the ROMs to all of the games I collect, so I'll be talking a little bit about Game Boy Advance SP, or just Game Boy Advance ROM dumping, as well as the other Game Boys. And I do that with the Retrode. I mentioned the Retrode in my last video, and this is the extension that you will get for your Retrode. In my last video, I also explained that the Retrode is really hard to come by. I don't know if they're still doing development for the Retrode, just a heads up, but the Retrode itself, I want to, this, you gotta get the Game Boy extension separately, and this will plug into the Sega Genesis port, and then you can plug in whatever Game Boy cartridge in the top of this slot. Now, the other thing about this is that it can also dump and write save files, except the Pokemon games. The Pokemon games are a weird exception to that. It doesn't do save files very well for the Pokemon games. I don't know if that includes Mystery Dungeon. I haven't tried Mystery Dungeon. But for the mainline Pokemon games, the way they encrypted the save file apparently is not compatible with the Retrode. So keep that in mind. There are other ROM dumpers out there I know that can overwrite, I think at least can overwrite and save files from your cartridges. Because I know one of my friends, that's how he backs up his Pokemon saves. So your other alternative that I personally know of, and I can't say whether or not this ROM dumper will save and overwrite save files on your Game Boy Advance cartridges, but I know that it does in fact dump the ROMs, and that is, of course, the Retro Blaster. I only use the Retro Blaster for NES games because I have the Retrode already, but you can use the Retrode to dump Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games. I should also clarify that this does do save files for the Game Boy and Game Boy Color Pokemon games. The Game Boy Advance is just a weird exception. Okay, we are going to actually move on to the games, and we are going to start with game cartridges that begin with a number. The first cartridge that starts with a number is this one. Now, you'll see that this doesn't actually have, let me try to focus the camera here. This doesn't have a number on it technically, but this is known as the 2-in-1 Spider-Man game pack. So Technically, it starts with a 2. This has both Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 on it. The Sam Raimi Spider-Mans. I've played quite a bit of this. This is a cartridge I grew up with. This is my original one. Now, I actually haven't played a whole lot of Spider-Man 2, but I have heard that Spider-Man 2 is one of the GBA games that uses 3D graphics, specifically in like the web swinging sections. So that's just an interesting little tidbit about that. The next one is the 4-in-1 game pack, Nicktoons pack. There we go. Let's see if the camera focuses there. I'm trying to get the glare off. This cartridge has SpongeBob SquarePants Super Sponge, Nicktoons Freeze Frame Frenzy, a Fairly Odd Parents game, I think it's Breaking the Rules, and then a Rocket Power game. I have not played any of these games, so I can't really comment on them. All right, we will move on with the letter B. For the letter B, I have one game, and it is Bionicle. Now, growing up, I was a huge Bionicle fan, and to this day, I still am a Lego fan. I am a former Lego collector. The reason I stopped collecting Lego is just because it's really hard. It's really hard and really expensive to collect for versus video games. Even though video games can be expensive, you can still go to like any store, especially stores that don't know the value in what they're selling, but even stores that do, you can pick up a bunch of games for just a couple dollars each. So video game collecting doesn't have to be expensive, especially if you're a collector that doesn't collect for any specific thing. So that's why I continue to collect video games, but I kind of fell off of collecting Lego, because Lego, it doesn't matter what set you're looking for, especially if it's a set that's discontinued, you are going to be paying up the butt. This game is also a game I grew up with. I have kind of a really stupid story about how I got this. So I got this for Christmas, and I was so disappointed that my parents got me a Bionicle video game instead of a Bionicle set. And I feel really bad about that. I've always felt bad about that, and I've apologized to my parents since about that, because I was pretty disappointed. But I mean, a video game is also really cool to get. Now, I will say this is a game that I was never a fan of. It's an isometric adventure game, and it is confusing, and it kind of sucks. I also have the manual for it, and this is a game that you will be lost with if you do not read the manual or some online guide, because this game is just so confusing, and there's not enough instructions in the game itself. Okay, we will move on with the letter C. First game is Cartoon Network Speedway. This is your Super Mario Kart clone. It plays just like Super Mario Kart. And there's not a whole lot to say about this. This is a game I grew up with. It's basically Super Mario Kart, but with Cartoon Network characters. Johnny Bravo, Courage, Cowardly Dog, Ed, and Eddie, Chicken and Cow, that era of Cartoon Network. Kind of like the waning days of Hanna-Barbera, I guess you could say. Yeah, I mean, I would say that it's actually not too bad. I feel like a lot of people kind of write this game up to be shovelware, but honestly, it's really not that bad. It's not a great game. It's sort of an unremarkable game. You're like, if you pick this game up, you'll have your couple hours of fun with it. Next in the C category is Codename Kids Next Door Operation Soda. This is not a game I grew up with. I got this recently. I can't remember where exactly I got it. I think I got it at Ori's Game Corner in Boone, if I'm remembering correctly. I have not played this game. It's your 100 millionth side-scrolling platformer game from what I'm able to tell. Codename Kids Next Door was a pretty cool cartoon that I remember watching. Okay, for the letter D, we have 2 cartridges. The first one is Donkey Kong Country. And I've owned this for a very long time. I was fortunate to get this game for free by a friend of my mother's, and to kind of top this off, I not only have the cartridge, I have the manual. And not only do I have the manual, but I have the box. And there's some insert in there. I'm not going to take the time to open it up, but I do have the box, and the box is in like new condition, to be honest. So I'm very fortunate about that. The next D cartridge I have, the next one I have is the DS Rumble Pack. Now, this is probably my favorite game for the Game Boy Advance. I've played this plenty of hours. Really good game. I would definitely recommend picking it up. Yeah, I mean, what is there to say about this game that hasn't already been said? Just really good game. Okay, now we will move on to E. And for E, I have one game, and that is Ed, Edd, and Eddy, The Misadventures. This is a great adventure platformer game. It's not like tight platforming like you would expect out of Super Mario, but it's an adventure platformer, and it's a very short game. You can probably beat it in 40 minutes, but the artwork is good. Like, the sprite art's really good. The music is great. It is very deserving of the franchise. Ed, Edd, and Eddy is such a great cartoon, and this game definitely lives up to it. Now, I do, for this game, also have the box, and the box is in like new condition. This is a game I had growing up, and I remember going to Walmart to get it. Strangely enough, I have misplaced the manual. I don't know where the manual is, but I do have the kind of like the the Bungie Vidoc video documentary of the making of this game, except they never show gameplay of the Game Boy Advance version. It's always like the PS2 GameCube version. And this is just a DVD that you slip in to your DVD player, and it just is a video. There it is. Showing, it's a bonus DVD. The making of. And if you want to watch that, I'm pretty sure somebody has uploaded that on YouTube, so you can watch it for free. It's a cool little glance at the development of the game. Next is the letter F, and for F, we have Finding Nemo. This is actually the first game I ever got for my Game Boy Advance. I'm pretty sure I got my Game Boy Advance for Easter one year, and this is the game my parents got for it. Finding Nemo is one of the greatest animated films of all time, and this game's actually pretty cute. It's towards the end of it, it gets really difficult, and I've never actually been able to beat this game. Around the part of the game where you have to escape the aquarium in the dentist office. That's the part I always get stuck on. But this is actually a pretty neat game. Good movie tie-in game, to be honest. Yeah, this was the first game I got, as I said, and I remember giving like one of those movie ticket stubs to my sisters, because my sisters didn't have any Game Boys or anything. I was kind of like the video game nerd, but they were a big fan of the NES and they would play Super Mario Bros. But when I got it, I remember giving this movie ticket stub as like, if you have this, you have my permission to play my Game Boy Advance for like 30 minutes. And I would always give it to one sister because the other sister would always just get on my nerves like siblings do. So yeah, Finding Nemo. This is a cool game. Moving on to G. So for G, we have Gumby versus the Astrobots. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. The Astrobots. I've never watched Gumby really much, but when I see the character, and I've watched a couple of like the animated shorts on YouTube, I really like Gumby. I'm a big fan of clay animation or claymation. I would watch Robert Benfer's Clay World all the time. That was my go-to like Newgrounds Flash series. And Gumby is claymation, and I really love the design of the characters. I tried playing this game a little bit. This is a game, I don't know if I said this already, that I got recently. I tried playing it, and it's your standard side-scrolling platformer game tie-in that the Game Boy Advance doesn't have enough of, apparently. But there's this one level where you're riding in a minecart, and it goes so fast that it's hard to see where you're going. So that's kind of an issue with it. But interestingly enough, the Gumby intellectual property is like at least 50 years old, but this is the only video game that's ever come out of it. So that's kind of a little unfortunate. I guess, especially if you're a fan of Gumby. Next on G, we have the Game Boy Advance video cartridges. And I have, let's see, how many of these do I have? I have 5. I have Volume 1 Cartoon Network Collection. Let's get the glare off there. Nicktoons Volume 2. So the Cartoon Network and Nicktoons collection are just random. Like the Cartoon Network has an episode of Courage, and I can't remember, Billy and Mandy. The Nicktoons one has an episode of Fairly Odd Parents, I believe, and Danny Phantom, maybe Danny Phantom, SpongeBob, I think. But I also have Volume 1 and 2 of SpongeBob SquarePants. Oop, hit my mic there. I apologize. And then Volume 2, I believe. Is that what that is? Volume 2? Yeah. Volume 2 of Fairly Odd Parents. These... My family would take long road trips to Iowa. So these were kind of, if I was tired of playing a game, I could pop one of these in and watch a very low quality episode of one of my favorite cartoons. Uh, I'm really looking out for the Shark Tale and Shrek 2-in-1 video cartridge because let's be honest, the best way to watch Shrek is at 3 frames per second with 1-bit audio stream. Okay, moving on with H, we have Harry Potter. Okay, so Harry Potter is what it says on the cartridge with nothing else. It doesn't say whatever, put your Harry Potter movie name in or book name. I know nothing about Harry Potter, never watched it, never read it. So I couldn't tell you. So it only says Harry Potter on it, but when you boot it up, the title screen says The Philosopher's Stone, which I'm pretty sure is not what the book/movie is titled. I'm pretty sure it's The Sorcerer's Stone. I could be wrong about that, but the continuity with this cartridge is a little crap. That's the only H game I have, so we'll move on to the letter I. Okay, for the letter I have 2 games. The Incredibles. This is a beat-em-up game, and it has a really cool art style. I only played a little bit of it. And, of course, The Incredibles Rise of the Underminer. I have not played this game, but it's really funny seeing this because now in 2022 we have a sequel to The Incredibles, and the Underminer is not the main villain. The Underminer shows up for like the first 5 minutes of the movie, but it's kind of like a funny alternate history sort of. Maybe this was the Incredibles 2 that we would have gotten if the Incredibles got a follow-up soon after the first movie. Moving on to the letter J. Okay, for the letter J, the first game I have is potentially the most interesting game in my Game Boy Advance collection. Potentially one of the most interesting games in my entire video game collection, and that is James Bond 007 Nightfire. If you aren't familiar with this, you might be a little shocked that the GBA even got a port of this game, but it did, and this thing absolutely pushes the limits of the Game Boy Advance. I'm a little hesitant to call it a good game, but I think this is a game, especially if you are a Game Boy enthusiast, this is a game you absolutely need in your collection. This is a real 3D space first-person shooter. If it wasn't bogged down by the simplistic controls of the Game Boy Advance, this would probably be like a twin-stick shooter. This isn't your Doom style or Wolfenstein style first-person shooter. This is an actual first-person shooter game, and it chugs. It plays at, I want to say, like 10 frames a second, but the environments are actually 3D, and it is a very hard game, partly to do with the control scheme. One really annoying thing about this game is that even if you beat a level, sometimes it won't let you progress because your score isn't high enough, which I think is what pulls this game down the most, because first of all, this game's really hard. So it's hard to get a high score. But I've actually watched several speed runs of this game. There's this one guy on YouTube, and I can't remember his name, but there's this guy on YouTube that speed runs this game, and I've watched just about all of his videos, and it's this game is so fascinating because like I said, it is a true 3D environment first person shooter for the Game Boy Advance. Maybe I'll stop taking too much time on this one game. So I'll move on with the next two J's. And they are The Adventures of Jimmy Neutron, Attack of the Twonkies, I believe, which sounds like a really bad word. I've not played this game, but it has GameCube, like home console at the time, ports as well. And then another Jimmy Neutron game, Jet Fusion. I have played a little bit of this, and it's your typical tie-in side-scrolling platformer game, adventure game. So, yeah, not much to say about it. I did really like Jimmy Neutron growing up, so I did want to snag these. I'm a big fan, if you hadn't already guessed, of 3D animation, and because of that, I love Jimmy Neutron. Moving on to the L's. I have Lara Croft's Tomb Raider: The Prophecy. I have not played this game, so I can't say much about it. And I have probably the first decently valuable game, and that is The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, Four Swords. I've not played this version of Link to the Past. I've played the original SNES version, but I am interested to play this just to see that GBA color palette, and kind of interested in seeing what the Four Swords. I'm pretty sure that's a multiplayer thing, so maybe I won't get that far with it, but yeah, it's Link to the Past, but for the Game Boy Advance. Next, we have the letter M, and for M, the first one is March of the Penguins. Now, this is a tie-in game to that documentary that was like super heavily advertised in like 2005, I want to say, 2006 maybe. So it was very strange when I found that there was a tie-in game for a documentary. I've actually never seen March of the Penguins, so I don't know if it's a true documentary or not, but I just remember that's kind of what it was advertised as. I have not played this, but I looked at some gameplay of it, and it kind of looks like it looks like it's inspired by Lemmings, that like old PC game that has nothing to do with like the actual rodent. It's like these little people that you have to guide through this world in different ways. This kind of looks like a version of that, but with penguins, and it's also like really zoomed in. So it's kind of hard to see where they're going. Next is Medal of Honor Underground, but you might know this game as the worst first-person shooter game of all time, and maybe the worst Game Boy Advance game of all time. And that's not exaggerating. That's not exaggerating, I mean to say. This, you just have to look up gameplay of it or play it for yourself, because this is like where 007 Nightfire kind of pushed the GBA to its limits, but in a good way. This pushes the GBA to its limits, but in the worst possible way. It is another first-person shooter game. Why they didn't just copy the Doom formula, because Doom has been released on the Game Boy Advance, and Duke Nukem Forever, or not Duke Nukem Forever, but Duke Nukem, other versions of Duke Nukem. Why they didn't go with that formula, but they went with whatever garbage is on this. I got it at Ori's Game Corner because I knew just how bad it was, and I'm like, I gotta get it because it's possibly the worst game on the system. So, Medal of Honor Underground. Nicktoons Freeze Frame Frenzy. Now, this is one of the games that was on that 4-pack cartridge that I showed off earlier. I have not played this game, but the next game I have played because it is a game I grew up with, and it is Nicktoons Unite. Now, you talk about shovelware. This game is not that great. It's another adventure platforming game, and the the sprites are pre-rendered. It's all pre-rendered graphics, but let me tell you, it does not look good. SpongeBob looks like he snorted a line before getting put into this game. The bosses in this game, at least the one that I played, is like your most rudimentary movement, like you take the bouncing ball movement and click Team Fusion, and that's what they applied onto one of the bosses. I think it's the Danny Phantom vampire, whatever his name is. I never really watched Danny Phantom, but it has Jimmy Neutron, SpongeBob, Danny Phantom, and Timmy Turner from Fairly Odd Parents, and they all got to defeat the bad guys in their own universes. Again, the vampire guy, Plankton. I can't remember his name. Calamitous or whatever, the old scientist guy from Jimmy Neutron, and then Mr. Crocker. So I will say this, the Bikini Bottom music in this game absolutely slaps. It is a really good soundtrack for the Bikini Bottom levels. Moving on to P, and you probably already guessed what games I'm going to have for the Game Boy Advance in the P category. The first one is Pokemon Emerald. And this is the official non-bootleg cartridge. I bring that up because the next one I'm going to show is a bootleg. And I kind of wish I started with it just to kind of freak you guys out a little bit. Pokemon Emerald. What is there to say about these? I'm just gonna shoot through these Pokemon games real quick. One, because I'm actually not that big of a Pokemon fan. I enjoy the Mystery Dungeon games a lot more than the mainline games. I feel like the Mystery Dungeon games are they're just better turn-based RPGs than the mainline games, partly because I feel like there's more tactics involved, because you actually it actually depends on like what spaces you're on. I also think the stories in the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games are far better than the mainline games. That being said, I'll show you the rest of my Pokemon games. By the way, I got all these Pokemon games several years ago at Tolly's in West Jefferson. Now, unfortunately, Tolly's is no longer open because the owners wanted to do something else. But I got all of these for really cheap there before video games really skyrocketed up. I'm pretty sure I got these at like $20 a pop, which... hearing that now, you're probably crapping your pants because these games go for, I want to say, over $100 now. So I'm glad I got them when I did. Here's the bootleg one. First of all, the label is just torn to shreds, but if you open up this cartridge, it's very plainly bootleg, especially when you compare it, because the battery's totally in the wrong spot. And the chip they have in it is like a very cheap looking chip, integrated, whatever. This game freezes after the Dr. Oak introduction. It just freezes and it crashes. My best friend, this is one of the games he gave to me. I'm not sure exactly where he got it. I'm kind of wondering if he bought it online and didn't. I'll have to ask him about it, but he just gave it to me for free. So I kind of show this as like when people come over and take a gander at my collection, I kind of show them, there's an epidemic with Pokemon bootlegs, and here's the difference between a genuine copy and a bootleg. Next is Pokemon Fire Red. It is Pokemon Red version, but for the Game Boy Advance. I'm just going to blow through these. Pokemon Leaf Green, again. Pokemon Green version, which we never got here in the United States, but this was like the first release we got for Pokemon Green version. And when I show off my Game Boy and Game Boy Color games, I will talk a little bit more about this. Next is Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Red Rescue Team. And like I said earlier, I think the Mystery Dungeon games are the better Pokemon games out of the, as opposed to the mainline ones. I think the Mystery Dungeon games are just so much better. And this is a game I grew up with. I got it from somebody I knew probably like, I don't know how old this game is, but it seems like I got this game like 20 years ago, and I bought it off of them for like $15. And with it, I have the box. Now, they must have bought it like secondhand somewhere because it still has this $24.99 price tag on it. But this is pretty much complete. The box is a little crushed, but not too bad. I also got came with one of the inserts. You can see there. And of course the manual. So I'm really fortunate to pretty much have this game complete. Especially since Pokemon games are just through the roof in price. Next is Pokemon Pinball, Ruby and Sapphire. I have not played this game, so I can't really comment on it. And then Pokemon Ruby. I really love the Pokemon cartridges, especially the Game Boy Advance ones. They're just really pretty, in my opinion. The transparent, translucent colored plastic is just awesome. And then, of course, Pokemon Sapphire. Now, I actually grew up with this game. This is not the cartridge I grew up with. Unfortunately, I lost my cartridge. I have no idea where it went, so I had to buy a new one, but I bought this for like $15 at Tolly's several years ago. This is the one I grew up with. This is the only Pokemon game that I finished. I don't think I didn't do like any of the post-game stuff, but I completed like the main storyline. And I actually completed it about a year ago with my best friend, who also gave me the bootleg Emerald cartridge. So there's Pokemon Sapphire, one of the Pokemon games I actually grew up with. Next is the letter R, and I have one game, and it's Robots, based on the movie that came out around 2005 that has Amanda, whatever her name is, from the Amanda Show. I'm pretty sure she's in it. And then you got a robot named Aunt Fanny, which, because she has a big fanny, really funny. This is actually a really fun adventure game. This is a semi-isometric adventure game. I got this for Easter one year growing up. So I have a lot of memories of this game. It is honestly a really decent adventure game with decent combat and decent mini games. So I would recommend getting this game. This is like a tie-in movie game, kind of like Finding Nemo, that I can actually recommend getting. I also got the manual for it. Yep, manual. Moving on to S, and we have Shark Tale by Activision, based on the DreamWorks movie. I have not played this game, but I've seen the movie, and I can't believe that they turned Will Smith into a fish and that they managed to turn him back into a human. But there's Shark Tale. I got it recently. I got this game along with several of these Game Boy Advance games. This, like the Star Wars ones I'm going to show later. I got pretty much most of these S games at McKay's in Winston-Salem. I think McKay's has multiple locations in North Carolina. The one I go to is Winston-Salem, and McKay's is a very impressive store with a very impressive selection of everything media related and toys. Like they have a big Lego selection, records, CDs, video games, sound systems, cameras, just a whole bunch of stuff. So just a little shout out there, not endorsed. Next is Sonic Advance 3. This is a game I grew up with, and I know I have the box for it somewhere. I just don't know where the box is. I misplaced it at some point. This game, if there's one game that is the most gorgeous out of all of these games, it has to be this one. The art style is just so beautiful. The backgrounds, the scenery is beautiful. So is the music. The music is pumping. It's the music is straight up jam. I played this game quite a bit, never finished it, but it is a game I grew up with, and I have the manual for it. Here's the manual, and on the back there's an advertisement for Sonic Battle, which is actually something I've never heard of. At least not this this one with the flaming Sonic head. Actually not heard of that before. Next on S, we are going to get into the SpongeBob games. And the first SpongeBob game is SpongeBob's Atlantis SquarePants. This is not called SpongeBob SquarePants Atlantis SquarePants. This is called SpongeBob's Atlantis SquarePants. Have not played this game, but this is the tie-in to that one SpongeBob special that had David Bowie in it. I got this game at Retroid, which is in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and it is a small video game store, but their selection is very impressive. They are basically the only game store that I've been able to find recently that actually has GameCube games. Every other store except McKay's also had GameCube games, but they have like the high value GameCube games and like none of the more just kind of like filler games. But Retroid has just about everything. They even have big box PC games, which is really cool. But this is one of the smaller games I got at Retroid. Have not played it yet. I actually got it today of the day I'm recording this. Next is SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom. I got this from one of my good friends, as well as the Harry Potter game. I played a little bit of this, and this is probably, out of all of the SpongeBob games I have played, this is probably the weakest one. which is a shame because Battle for Bikini Bottom is a really well-known, good game on like Xbox and the other systems, and it even got a remaster recently. So it's kind of a shame that this Game Boy Advance version doesn't really live up to the other ones. Next is SpongeBob SquarePants Creature from the Krusty Krab, and I have not played this game either, and I also got this game today, the day I recorded this episode, or video episode. Next is my personal favorite SpongeBob game. It is a game I grew up with, and it's SpongeBob Lights Camera Pants. Now, the home console release of this game, I believe, is like it's a party game, kind of like Mario Party. But this is an adventure platformer game, and the art, the sprite art and pixel art and all that is fantastic in this game. It reuses a lot of assets from another SpongeBob Game Boy Advance game, and I actually don't know which one that is. It might be the SpongeBob SquarePants movie Game Boy Advance game, which I do not have. But this game is full of mini games. This is a very short game. You can probably beat it in a few hours. But I remember having a lot of fun with this game. The biggest complaint I have about it is that there's something wrong with the movement where if you're running, so you double tap the one of the directions on the control pad to run or to sprint. But if you jump, your character basically loses that momentum of running, and you have to double tap the control pad again to run once you've landed from that jump, which feels terrible and does not make the game feel responsive at all. And there's this one level in this game where you're running from a big ball of garbage, which seems like it's going at 200 miles per hour, and the basically the room for error is very little, and because of how the running works in this game, it makes that level that much harder. Moving on, the last SpongeBob SquarePants game I have is SpongeBob SquarePants Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. I have not played this game yet, so I cannot comment on it. But I do have plenty of SpongeBob games. I think I'm missing one or two of them. And I would also like to get the SpongeBob SquarePants Game Boy Advance SP at some point, just to complete that SpongeBob Game Boy collection. Now we're moving on to Star Wars games, and the first one is, actually, that's out of order. Let me get the Star Wars games first. Okay, the first one is Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones. Now, I grew up with the prequels. I'm a really big fan of the prequels. Revenge of the Sith is my favorite Star Wars movie of all time. I'm really excited for Obi-Wan Kenobi on Disney Plus because we get to see the King, Hayden Christensen, back again as Darth Vader. And I was just a big fan of Star Wars growing up, especially the prequels. I love the Clone Wars era and the Clone Wars TV show. I love both TV shows. I love the Toonami one, and I would watch that growing up when it came on Toonami, and then later on the 2008 3D animated Clone Wars. But yeah, so this game I'm pretty sure is made by one person, because when you load it up, one of the splash screens, it says like David something Productions, and further research in this game makes me believe it's made by one person, and it kind of shows. The sprites are gigantic. Like, you play as Obi-Wan and Anakin Skywalker in this game, and the character sprites take up like a fourth of the entire screen, which is not good. to be honest. It's a very rudimentary side-scrolling beat 'em up. It seems like I want to say that there's like there's like a different driving section like towards the beginning where you're chasing down Zam Wessel. I want to say that that's in this game, but I could be thinking of a different game. After Attack of the Clones, we have Revenge of the Sith, which of course, like I said earlier, is my favorite Star Wars movie. I actually have not played this game, but I have seen a lot of the sprite work, and this game is a much needed improvement from Attack of the Clones from what it looks like. There's kind of a cartoon art style to this game versus Attack of the Clones kind of goes for that crusty photoreal look as far as you can get on the Game Boy. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, but I think when people make like sprite animations of Star Wars, a lot of the times they lift the sprites from this game to use. And then the last Star Wars game I have is Star Wars The New Droid Army. This is an Attack of the Clones era game, it looks like, just based on how Anakin looks on the label. I've not played this game, but supposedly it talks about, or the game's about, like, I don't know, droids that the Trade Federation or the Confederacy uses that we've just never seen in other Star Wars media. So I gotta play it to see what it's all about. Okay, the next game, we're going to get into the Super Mario Advance games. And the first one I have is Super Mario Advance 2, which has Super Mario World. And my best friend gave this to me, the same one that gave me the bootleg Emerald cartridge and the one I beat Pokemon Sapphire with. He gave me this game. He bought it for me when he took a trip to New York. Super Mario World is an awesome platformer game. And I really like the additions that this game has, like the opening cutscene. And I really love the pastel colors, which is something I like about the Super Mario Advance series, is that they are ports of the 16-bit Super Nintendo All-Stars version of these games, but with a pastel color palette, which I absolutely love. And speaking of which, we have Super Mario Advance 4, which has Super Mario Bros. 3. And this is a game I grew up with. This was actually my sister's game. She got a Game Boy Advance SP Lite, the bluish silver one, and I have the cobalt blue regular SP. And this is the game she got. She was arguing with me, saying that I kept getting like all these like dumb games like Spider-Man and she was like, why don't you get like an actual Nintendo game like Super Mario Bros? And she was absolutely right. These were the games to get for your Game Boy Advance, but for whatever reason, I just didn't ask for your actual Nintendo games. I got a bunch of like third-party, just Bionicle, So she was actually smart, and she asked for this, and she got it, and because she got it, I now have it. She's not really a game collector, or she likes games very, what's the term? Casually. She likes games casually. She's not like a hardcore game person like I am. Moving on to T, we have Tetris Worlds. This is a game I got from my brother. He was just giving away his DS, and he gave it to me, and he gave me a couple games with the DS. This is one of them. I love Tetris. As I stated in my last video, the NES version of Tetris is my favorite version of it. I also got the manual for it here. The manual is just the tiniest bit warped because of the DS case it was stored in. But at least I got the manual. Next, we got a bunch of Tony Hawk games because Tony Hawk games were the big thing, the big sports game when I was growing up. First one I have is Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam. Now, I actually got this game recently at the Vintage Corner in Wilkesboro, North Carolina. And I was looking for this game specifically because I was kind of looking out for Game Boy Advance games that use 3D graphics. And this is one of those games that fully utilizes like 3D environments and 3D graphics and 3D characters. Now, I don't believe there's any texturing. It's all just like using vertex colors. But I had to get this game. I have not really played it too much, but I got it just based on the 3D aspect of it. Next is Tony Hawk's Underground. And I should show these two off together because I got them together. I got them growing up. I remember my mom came back from a store, I want to say Walmart, but I'm not totally certain. And out of the bag, she put both of the games behind her back, and she told me to pick an arm, and I picked one. And then I can't remember which one I saw first. It was, I want to say, Tony Hawk's Underground 2. But then she showed the other game, and I'm like, oh, sweet, I got both of them. And they're pretty cool games, I will say. Especially Tony Hawk's Underground 2, the soundtrack is really hilarious because it's a bunch of these, like, well-known rock songs that are crusty from the Game Boy Advance's audio compression. What's really cool about Tony Hawk's Underground 2 is that you can actually customize your skateboard, the underneath. Like, you can paint it. Whether it actually shows up in the game or I don't know. I'm pretty sure like the environment is isometric. The environment is definitely not like 3D rendered, but I want to say the characters are. So you may be able to actually see the graphic of the board that you made, but whether it's clear and you can actually make out any of the details is another story. That's all the Tony Hawk games, but I do have one more T game, and it is Tron 2 Killer App. I've not played this game. I got it recently at McKay's just a couple weeks ago. And I got it because I'm kind of expecting it to be like that, you know, the Tron arcade game that we all think about, whether that's actually like the bike game, whether that's actually on this game or not, I don't know. I hope I'm not disappointed, and I think that'd be really weird if that wasn't at least a part of this game. I wonder if Daft Punk is in this. Probably not. I would imagine that this was released before the movie, before Tron Legacy, I think, is what Daft Punk was in. Be really funny to see Daft Punk in a Game Boy Advance game. Imagine watching like the Prime Time of Your Life music video, but on a Game Boy Advance video cartridge. I'll let somebody figure that out. Somebody do that, because I know there's a program where you can convert video files to GBA video ROMs. So maybe, we'll see. Next is the W's, and I have World Championship Poker. This is another game I got with the DS. It's poker. Haven't really played it. This is the last game I have a manual for, and it has even more of that warp from being in the DS case. But it's poker. What else can you say about it? The last game I have is in the X category, and it is X2 Wolverine's Revenge. This is a game I grew up with. I remember going to Walmart to get this. I remember picking it out in the display case. I didn't really know that much about Wolverine or the X-Men though. I wasn't really into the X-Men growing up, but I saw this and I saw Wolverine on the box and I thought that looks cool. And so I got the game, and I will say this is a pretty darn good game. It's a good beat 'em up platformer game with interesting mechanics with Wolverine's claws, if that's what you call them, where you can climb up walls and your claws do extra damage to enemies, which, by the way, the way the enemy like health and stuff is managed is really cool. You can have multiple enemies on screen at a time, which is like the most AI I think I've seen in a Game Boy Advance game at once. The combat is really fun. There's different attacks make the enemies react in different ways. I feel like there's always a different way to play the levels. I've not beaten this game. This game does get hard, especially the boss fights. There's one boss fight that I've never been able to complete, to pass, and it is when the Institute is being burned down and you have to rescue a bunch of students, and then at the end of that level there is a boss, and I don't know the name of the boss, but they I want to say they have, like, from memory, they have like red or green hair, and somebody will know who it is and they'll be shouting at me in the comments if anybody who's an X-Men fan watches this video, but I can never seem to get past that boss. Other than that, this is a very enjoyable game. I recommend it. Well, that is all of the Game Boy Advance games I have. I won't waste any time closing this video out, so hope you enjoyed listening to me talk about these games and saw some games that you were familiar with. Hope you enjoyed the commentary I had, some of the stuff I had to say. I think I already said that already. A lot of games here I grew up playing, but a lot of them I also just got recently. So hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I will see you later in the next video. Bye.